Hi guys, thanks ever so much for tuning in. This week's video is a little bit different because it's going to be about post-processing. Now, I try and get my images correct in the camera so I don't have to do an awful lot of this. But this is also a different post-processing video, and you may know that on my channel there are a couple of videos about this thing called AI, generative fill, in the Photoshop beta program, and I found this very interesting. Now, I don't use it in my photography, but I've had this idea ever so often come across really interesting buildings which appear to be in the wrong place, or they might just look like they're an odd shape. So I've got a few of those, and these have just been shot on my iPhone very quickly. So I've downloaded them into Photoshop, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and give them a completely different setting that will hopefully suit them. So what I'm going to do at the end of all that, I will put a link to the PSD, the Photoshop files, in the description, and you can go and download them, and by all means have a play. Tell me what I'm doing wrong. Obviously this has all been created by AI, it's all creative, none of this is going to be real, but I think that'll be pretty obvious when you look at the pictures. So, computer's ready, let's dive into Photoshop Beta and we'll go through my workflow. So here are the two images. We've got this one. This is a really interesting building which I came across while sailing down the Broads, and as soon as I saw it I thought, I know where I want to put that. This is the other one. This is the Lighthouse at Hunstanton. Now, the sky I've had a little play with on my iPhone, so this has been done in Snapseed, but that's not a problem because I'm going to cut this out anyway. And the other image I've got open is this one, which again I shot on my iPhone while I was in the woods a while ago, and that's kind of the idea. So the first thing, cut this out. I'm going to do that with the quick selection tool here. So up here we're going to add plus. I'm going to make this bigger actually by using the square bracket, just to go through all of that bit. Add that bit in there. This is really quick, it works so well, and it's all selecting the edges. I don't mind a bit of sky actually. Actually, the sky I don't mind this bit greenery here. That's all right. And let me just check that's all working. So we'll go on the zoom in a little bit. So I want to just get rid of, because I don't want blue in the picture. Let's go back to my quick selection tool, and I want to just remove, make this really small by hitting the square bracket key. I just want to just touch onto the top of the roof, because I think if I use a bit of sky it's going to add a bit of blue colouring, which I don't really want. So that roof is pretty good. I'm not worried about the green. There's a bit of the house not showing there, just add him back in, and that accent a bit there, and that's actually quite a good selection. Maybe just also remove, again, make this really small, and just remove. Let's just add that bit in there. So that's all been selected, that's all fine, happy with that. So that is going to be masked now. The other thing I could do with getting rid of, which I'll do actually a little bit later, is this clothesline. But there's the selection. So double click on the hand, takes it out. What I'm now going to do is click OK. Actually, I'm just going to adjust to make it a bit smoother, the edges, and I'm just going to feather it a bit. Okay, so that's going to hopefully help me in a second. I'm going to press OK. That's masked. So now what I'm going to do is click the move tool. I'm just going to drag this out and put it into this little environment here. So that's the kind of idea. Maybe somehow nestled in there, actually maybe a bit higher up like that. Now the other thing that's going to be wrong with this is the perspective. So now what I can do, now it's a smart object, I can now do some work on it. So if I go to transform perspective, what I can now do is just lean it in and lean it forward a bit. I'm going to go that way. Let's push that back a little bit. I'm just trying to get it to look a little bit straighter. That kind of work, maybe something. There we go, something like that looks better. Okay, so that's all done, and what I'm now going to do is I'm going to invert this. So everything else apart from the house is selected, and now I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this. So my idea is autumn forest floor, surrounded by mushrooms, fungi, lichen, moss, 4K, if we want to try and make it realistic, hyper realistic, at sunset, and then we're going to hit generate. So that's going to come up here. The prompt that I put in is the bit we might change, and that's up here, and let's see what it comes up with. Wow, look at that. I don't know what this bit is. The top, it's got a stone on the top of it. That's nice. Look at that. I like that. And kind of that. I think this is my favourite one. I really like that. I think that's lovely. The only thing I would say is the colour of the house doesn't really suit. Isn't that brilliant? Isn't that really good? So, of course, the other thing that I can do is I can add bits and pieces to it. So let me think. So if we just get the lasso tool and just lasso around here, I'm going to draw across here, and I'm going to generate in here moss covered rock. Let's see what it comes up with. And we've got this one, there's not much moss on that. That's nice. Not so much. That one I like a lot, actually, so we'll leave that. Now, what I've just realised that I haven't done, which would have been so much easier earlier, was to get rid of this little bit here. So I just want to get rid of that. Can I do that? Yeah, and there we go. Look at that. That's better, isn't it? Probably the first one, because I think people are going to notice that. That's really lovely. I really love that. I don't know whether I can make this, the colour of this, a little bit better. What am I selecting here? Yeah. So we want to work on this really, and I need to just adjust maybe the colour of it. Maybe I can just make it a little bit yellower, redder maybe. Just colour, look at that. That's better. I'm just going to give it a little bit of a colour cast in the midtones and the shadows. And maybe the highlights can be a bit yellowy. And that makes it look a little bit orange, doesn't it? I think. Okay, let's have a look and see how that looks. That looks a load better. Put the rock back in. Oh, get rid of that. And that kind of looks good. So I'm going to save that as a PSD file for you to have a look at. And then what I'm going to do is I am going to squash the layers, and then I'm going to have a little go at it again. So there we go. Okay, so that's that. So what I'm now going to do is going to go up to a layer, flatten image, go to camera raw, and I'm now opening it as if it's a raw file, so I can have a little play with this. It's pretty vibrant anyway, so that's all right. But look, I can adjust the exposure of everything, darken it right down, play with the highlights, bring them up, shadows as well. play with the overall temperature if I wanted to. And how do I? I'm going to hit the vignette hard, darken that right down. That's really cool. Really like that, actually. I think that looks brilliant. So that's an okay. Okay, so there we go. I'm just going to add a little white frame around it because I quite like doing those. So these are going to be 100. You can't see this on a different screen, but it's 150 by 150 pixels. And that, look at that. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? So let's save a copy of that, which I'm going to save as a JPEG into my AI folder. And here comes the image for you to have a look at. Okay, so here is our lighthouse. So I really like this lighthouse. I think he looks great. I said earlier, I played around in Snapseed with this, so the sky looks a little bit false. But again, it's an iPhone picture, just shot straight of the lighthouse, sitting by the main road in Hunstanton. And what I'm going to do with this is, first of all, actually, I'm going to cut the road out. Maybe let's just cut him out first. So we're going to use the object selection. So it's about how you go about this, I guess. So let's just go this object selection mask. We're just going to select the lighthouse. Now you could obviously use the lasso tool, rectangular selection tool. I'm sure to do lots of this. Just going to make sure that I've got all the pixels that I want. I don't really want those bits. Actually, I don't suppose it matters too much because it'll help it blend in. Not sure I need that. Let's go in here with the stairway. That's all right. Actually, there's a bit there I need to add in, and this bit here, and that end bit there. That all looks fairly good. Not being too picky with it, as you can see. Now, what I'm going to now do is I'm going to click on invert the selection, and using the crop tool, which is C, just going to drag a scene both sides of this. Okay, and in here I'm going to write stormy, stormy clouds with heavy rain, dark, imposing coast with rocks and boulders with waves crashing violently onto the shoreline. Let's see what it comes up with. Boom. Wow, look at that. Now, I don't actually... it's brought the scene a bit closer. I'm not sure I really need the road, actually, so I might have to get rid of the road in a minute. Let's see what we can do here. That looks amazing, though. Look at this. Look at the clouds. Doesn't that look great? So let's say that. Which one do we think is the best one? Quite like that one, actually. Although that's going to be difficult to get rid of the crashing waves. Maybe that one. And then what I'm going to do is use the lasso tool. So I'm just going to select around this gate here, like that. Let me just go up to there to make that selection. And in here I'd like dark coast beach with rocks, boulders, white waves crashing hard, and spray. 4K hyper realistic, and let's see what that comes up with. Now that will just get rid of that road, and this is going to put this lovely lighthouse on the coast out to sea where he should be, I'm hoping. Whoa, those people, what are the people doing in there? So let's have a look. We've got that. Where do the people come from? It's like zombies. Actually, that's nice. Look, I really like that. So what I can now do, again, I get the lasso tool out and just remove. So what I can do with this is I can just lasso it and ask it just to generate. Just want to make that into like a clone, I guess. Or I can flatten it. I could do that actually. Let's do that in a minute. Oh, that's gone. And the same with this one. Just going to get rid of that family there, standing by the side of the ocean, getting covered. So let's just remove them. And they've gone, and that looks really good. Now that's where that lighthouse should be, don't you think? I could just tweak, so I'm just going to tweak the colour of it. And now I just need to go up to my adjustments. So this is where I'm kind of a bit more confident, because this is kind of the stuff that I'm doing in Photoshop regularly anyway. I'm just going to darken that down a little bit just so that it fits in with the scene that we've got. I don't think I need to do anything else necessarily. It's just the exposure's gone a little bit too light, which means it stands out a little bit. So that looks okay, I think. Let's have a look at this, deselect it. That fit in better? Yeah, nice. Okay. Again, so what I'm now going to do is save this as a PSD file for you to use, Photoshop file, okay, with the layers. And I'll put this in the download for you to have a little play with. So I'm going to call this Lighthouse. I'm now going to flatten this. And again, so if we flatten the layer, it gets rid of all of those. And now what I'm going to do is again open it in Camera Raw. And there we go. And the same thing. So with the optics, we're going to make a nice vignette around it to make it dark. That looks cool, doesn't it? I'm really loving that. Maybe a slight curve just to give it a bit of punch. Push the highlights up a little bit, give it a bit of contrast. Looks really good. I'm not sure about this shadow here. I might have to do something about that later on. That's really nice. Anything we need to do here? Maybe just pull the highlights up a little bit. Because it's quite bright where these light bits are. Not sure about these bits here. Might have to go and do something about those. But it's that kind of thing, I think. Looks really lovely. So there we are. So what do you think? Like it? Don't like it? Got your own ideas? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed that. That was very interesting. So as I said, I'll leave the original files and the Photoshop file, the PSD document, in a link to my Google Drive. So go and have a look at that. Download it if you want to have a play, or show me your results. Be an interesting thing. So the title is Misplaced. That's what you've got to work to. Just a quick plug for the workshops that Gary Sugden and I are running. I'll put a link to that below as well. If you want to come to Yorkshire and photograph some limestones and waterfalls, please come and join us. Got a few places left still, and I will see you next week, where hopefully we'll do some woodland pictures, because autumn is beginning to arrive. So I'm going to be looking forward to going out into the woodland in Norfolk. Tune in next Sunday, 6 o'clock. Thanks ever so much for tuning in. Goodbye.